Hello everyone, in this video, we're going through the math on whether it's better to pay off your mortgage early or invest. Usually, if you are trying to answer this question, it means that you have extra cash left over after pay all your bills for the month, and now you're just trying to optimize the remaining dollars that you have. So first of all, I just want to say, if that's you, congratulations, because most people are not in the situation, as the gross personal savings rate in Canada is around 3.5% based on 2026 data. And many people are living paycheck to paycheck rate. In order to figure out what is best for you, it's going to depend on a lot of factors. But the biggest factor is your mortgage interest rate. We're going to talk about how the mortgage payment is broken down, because understanding how it works is absolutely key in figuring out what's right for you. Then once we understand that, we can actually answer what makes the most sense mathematically and financially. And then in addition, I will share some strategies to help you pay off your home early if that's what you're interested in, and other intangible to consider when it comes to paying off the mortgage early or investing. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Sibo. I'm a local realtor here in North Surrey, British Columbia, specializing in helping newcomers and first-time buyers settle down and navigate the Canadian market. So at a really basic level, when you get a mortgage, you're buying a home with borrowed money from your bank. You mustn't pay back the sum that you borrowed with interest over time because, hey, that's how banks make money. So let's say you borrow $500,000 to buy a house, and you get this standard 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and the bank will make it really easy for you and break down how much you need to pay them back on a monthly basis for the next 30 years, or 360 payments. So each monthly payment is broken down into two components, and understanding this is really vital in answering this whole question that you have today. The first component is you borrow a large sum of money, so you need to pay that back over the 30 years, and this is called the principal. The second part of the payment is the interest on the total sum of the money that you borrowed. So interest on whatever remaining balance you haven't paid off yet on the $500,000 loan over 30 years at a 4% interest rate, your interest payment is always going to be presented as the following. It's your balance remaining times the interest rate, or 4% divided by 12 months, and that is your monthly payment of interest. So in the first month of your $500,000 mortgage, your payment is going to be roughly $2,387. But here's the really fascinating and messed up part. Depending on how you view finance, a mortgage follows what's called an amortization schedule, which is just a fancy table that details each monthly payment on a loan in the month. One of your payments, $2,387, is broken into the two components that we talked about earlier. But here's the crazy thing. $1,667 of it goes towards interest, and only $720 of your payment goes towards the total amount that you actually owe for the house. And this is actually how mortgage work. The banks front load all the interest payments because they need to get paid first. But by doing so, you don't really ever make a dent in the principal balance, aka how much you owe, until way later in the life of the loan. And this becomes problematic because you are being charged interest on the remaining balance that you owe. And if you have never taken a dent in the principal, it can seem kind of hopeless. It's so shocking, in fact, that in the first 12 years and 9 months out of the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, your interest payment actually still exceed the amount that you pay on the principal on every single month payment. Said differently, that means in the first 12 years and 9 months, where 81 payments, the majority of your payments are still going towards the bank and not towards paying back your loan. In fact, if we take a look at the yearly amortization schedule right here, you can see at the end of year 13, you will still owe about $352,900 on your house. So you are 43% through the mortgage already in terms of the time elapsed, but you have only paid off less than 30% of the sum that you originally borrowed. Talk about a disproportional. And oftentimes with mortgage, the amount of interest that you pay could easily be equal or more than the amount you actually borrow. If you borrowed $500,000 for 30 years at an interest rate of 4%, the total amount of interest that you pay is actually around $359,000. In the first place, that brings the total amount that you paid for the loan to be $859,000. Now, if your interest rate were 3.5%, you would have paid around $308,000 in interest over the life of the loan. And if your interest rate was 3%, you will pay around $259,000 over the life of the loan. All crazy numbers. So this is pretty eye-opening. That means if we can reduce our principal balance as soon as we can, actually not only pay off your mortgage faster, you can also reduce the total amount of interest that you pay, saving us a tons of money in the long run. Hopefully you're still with me, and the next part is actually very interesting, so you're enjoying this so far. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's completely free and only takes less than 1 second to do that. So let's actually examine right now what stock market returns looks like and actually whether or not it makes sense to pay off your mortgage early or invest now when it comes to investing. Quote the S&P 500 average annualized return since adopting 500 stocks into the index in 1957. So we can reasonably expect to get around a 10% return in the stock market historically, and after considering taxes, a good ballpark figure that I think we could probably end up with 7 to 8% when it comes to the interest rate on our mortgage. Let's pretend the interest rate is around 4%. If you make extra payments towards your mortgage, then you are basically going to be earning 4% on your money. In this situation, so let's say, for example, you got your mortgage back in 2021, when the mortgages were around, let's say, 2%. You mathematically are going to be a lot better off investing instead of paying off your mortgage. And that's simply due to the fact that you are earning 2% of making extra payments on your mortgage. But if you took extra dollars and invested, if you were averaging 10% per year or roughly 7 to 8% after tax, which is definitely higher than your 2%. So let's examine how asset classes has been performing over the last 10 years, and we can see the annualized returns here of different asset classes like large cap growth stocks, large cap value stocks, small caps, international stocks, cash, and etc. You can feel free to pause the video here if you would like to see how certain asset classes have performed over the last 10 years. But what I really want to show you in this summary table of all return of S&P 500 since 2004. We can see that since 2004, most years have returned positively, and the average year since 2009 returns way higher than, let's say, 3%. We should also note that when you are investing, there are going to be a couple of losing years that you might experience, for example, in 2018 and 2022. So my takeaway as of right now, at this point in the video, is that if you have a low interest rate, let's say 2.5, 3%, or maybe even up to 5% of your mortgage, it's always going to make more financial sense to invest than to pay off your mortgage early. When the interest rate gets to 6 or 7%, the decision becomes a little closer. Some people are going to favor paying off mortgage early, not due to financial benefits, but more intangible benefits like a peace of mind. Let's pretend you have a 6% interest rate on your mortgage right now. With 6% interest rate, you are effectively getting a risk-free rate of return on any extra dollar that you're paying off your mortgage early. While 6% is not impossible to achieve in the stock market, it may be risky to achieve in the stock market though, because as we showed earlier, not every year is going to return positively. There's always going to be some inherent risk whenever you take your money and invest it into something. In addition, there is intangible benefit of being able to get a peace of mind and a risk rate of return of 6% on your money, that you might choose to actually pay off your mortgage early instead of investing it. So far, if you want my rule of thumb in this video, it is the lower the interest rate on your mortgage, the better it probably is to invest. This is coming from the financial and mathematical viewing point, and the pay off a home is not exactly always a financial decision, the freedom you might get. When you don't have to make a mortgage payment every month, might be worth more to you than anything money could buy. So with that being said, how do you go about paying off your mortgage faster without breaking the bank entirely? I'm going to run you through two different strategies which both have the same common theme, which is that you actually have to apply extra payments towards the principal balance of your mortgage. But however, these strategies are easier to mentally manage, and I will put numbers onto the screen to really help us illustrate these. The first strategy involves making bi-weekly payments. So if your mortgage payment is $2,387 a month, like in our example, divide that monthly payment into two and make that a payment every 2 weeks. So in this case, $2,382 divided by 2 is $1,193.50. By doing so every 2 weeks, you're actually making 26 bi-weekly payments or 30 monthly total payments a year. That means over the course of the loan, you are making one extra payment towards the principal every single year. Now, please note though, whenever you do this, you must call your bank and let them know to apply the extra payment but beyond the normal monthly interest you owe to go towards the principal balance and not the future interest payments. And that's how you are actually going to pay off your mortgage fast. So let's say on this $500,000 mortgage at a 4% interest rate, making bi-weekly payment actually allows you to pay off the entire mortgage in 25 years and 11 months, saving you 4 years and 1 month of payment and over $56,385 in interest. So I think this is a bit of mental hack, because if you are able to afford this from the get-go of your mortgage, you could see yourself saving a tons of money throughout the course of the loan. The next strategy just involving paying down an extra $200 per month. If you're able to pay an extra $200 per month on this mortgage in particular, you will still save roughly 4 years and 1 month of payments and about $55,914 in interest. Both of these two strategies work much better when interest rate is say 6 to 7% or even 8%. But when the interest rate is much lower, such as 2.5 to 3% interest rate, the savings are just going to be smaller. I hope this illustrates to you the power of making extra payments towards paying off your mortgage, which should in turn give you powerful and tangible benefits such as the following. First, I think you get increased peace of mind. Not having the mortgage payment is almost like a weight lifted off your shoulders. Second, not having a monthly payment means that you free up the cash for other activities such as investing. Third, it lowers your debt to income ratio, which could in turn increase your credit score in case you want to borrow more money for something else. I hope you don't, but in case you want. And lastly, this home could be ready for your retirement, and it could be an asset that you pass down to your kids. But if your kids are really greedy and you really hate them and you want to send them off to the boarding school, then you don't have to either. So what about you? Are you leaning towards paying off the mortgage early for a peace of mind? Or would you rather put some extra dollars to work in the market? Drop a comment down below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And hey, if you're sitting down looking at your own numbers and trying to figure out what actually makes the most sense for your situation, whether that's mapping out your mortgage payoff strategy, budgeting for your first home here in Surrey, or seeing what options give you the best peace of mind, let's grab a quick one-on-one chat. You can grab a spot on my calendar using the link in the description below. No pressure, no pitch, just an easy, honest conversation to help you gain clarity and figure out your best next move. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.